Hello and welcome to the morning after show presented by Underdog Fantasy Sports. My name is Joshua Reimer. I am joined by none other than Jared Block, who's over on my right. Jared, how are you doing? Happy May the 4th.
Yes, happy May the 4th. Doing well. It's a nice day for some content. Lots of it over the past day or so. And yeah, today's show is packed, so I'll just keep it short at that.
Yeah, it certainly is packed. We have lots to talk about today. We have 30 minutes to do so. I mean, if you're ready, I'm ready. We can get right through this thing and start talking about all the news we have.
Yes, we got a lot of news this morning. First, breaking news from the NFL. They announced all the international games for the 2022 regular season. We have three games in London: Saints, Vikings, Packers, Giants, Jaguars, and Denver Broncos. And then we do have the Bucks Seahawks playing in Germany, while the Cardinals and Niners just announced that they will be playing in Mexico City on Monday Night Football. So, any surprises here? Kind of weird that your game is going to be on Monday Night Football, but other than that, most of this we saw coming.
Kind of excited about that Cardinals and Niners game. I think that'll be a lot of fun. Both of those teams pretty close to Mexico City, so I feel like you have really good turnout there. That'll be a lot of fun to watch. Saints Vikings could be very good in London. Packers Giants sounds very ugly in London. No offense to your team, but not the prettiest of matchups. I mean, you look at all these matchups, and I have to say, like, it doesn't even come close. Cardinals and Niners is easily the best one.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, the London games usually aren't very competitive, and if they are, they're between bad teams. So we'll see if that changes this year. Um, I know that there's also one more Germany game that I don't think is on this year's announcement list, but it's going to be next season. Very cool by the NFL to keep doing that. And again, like we're years away from this still, but the expansion's coming.
Yeah, it certainly is, and they're just kind of cementing the groundwork in those different areas, and so you're going to see that soon. It's going to be really exciting, but until then, you have these games, which they're a lot of fun to cover. You get to get up mighty early and get to cover the single game stuff forward, and you get to get up early and watch them, and outside of the Mexico City one, obviously. I don't know. I like it. I think is this more games than we had last year?
Oh, a lot more. I think we only
Yeah.
had two, maybe three London games at the most. So they doubled it. And I don't
No.
think that they played in Mexico City the last 2 years because of international stuff with COVID.
And they definitely didn't play in Germany, right? Like, I know that for sure. This is
Oh,
the
that's the
first.
first Germany game. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like it. Good idea. Anyway, let's talk about college football news. This is something that came out yesterday, but obviously super important to cover. Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF are negotiating a settlement in the 17 to $20 million range to join the Big 12 next year. My American conference is crying a little bit on the inside, Jared, but what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it was a matter of money, and that's unfortunate that that's the way that that is sometimes. But at least they joined at least they joined this instead of the SEC because all these
Yeah.
teams would probably get crushed if they did that.
Oh
The
yeah.
Big 12, it just felt like Cincinnati, Houston, like those three teams fit well in the Big 12. So I'm excited for it. Should be lots of offense and not too much defense being played. Although Houston does have a reputation for being pretty good on defense, so we'll see how it goes there. It's just a bigger chance for those three teams now that we've had all three of them, mainly Cincinnati and UCF, make pretty decent runs and giving themselves that little extra push now. I think that's more of what it is too. It gives them a chance to actually compete for a national championship. Not that they didn't before, but we've had instances now back to back years, or it was UCF's run more than 2 years ago, where they've just been stopped in the first round. So maybe they get better recruiting deals and better recruiting in general, and they're able to compete at a higher level.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. Should be interesting. All these teams get that step up. I think they'll probably have some growing pains heading into a Power Five now, but I still think that this is probably the right move at the end of the day. All three of these teams were clearly in the wrong conference, and getting into the Big 12 will be good for them. Last thing, football related. DeAndre Hopkins news. We got news that DeAndre Hopkins tested positive for PEDs recently. What is your thoughts on the news, and how long is he out because of this?
He's out at least 6 months. I believe he's already in the appeal process, or he didn't appeal it, one of the two. But his statement came as kind of he followed up with saying that he never knew that he was taking it and was aware of that. He said he was confused and shocked when that actually came back. So he's looking into it, and I guess a bunch of people are about to get fired on his team. That's probably what's going to happen. So I don't think that he knew what was happening. Maybe that's just smokescreen. But I feel like the team knew ahead of time, and that's why they traded it again to get Marquise Brown.
It's funny because isn't like one of the PEDs like horse tranquilizer or something like that, or beaver tranquilizer, or it's some type of animal tranquilizer, and it's just like I know you're probably it's DeAndre Hopkins, you're probably lying a little bit through your teeth right now, but like, how do you not remember like a tranquil like that type of thing going into your body? I don't
Um,
know.
Yeah, weird. I again, like maybe he just said that he doesn't know that what was happening, but I guess we'll just wait. I don't think we'll ever find out really, but it's going to hurt them, and it's going to like we already kind of said that they have a lot of weapons, but now they won't have Christian Kirk or DeAndre Hopkins for the first at least third of the season.
Yeah, and I don't mean to be mean here, but if he was taking PEDs, like, can we call this the least successful PED taken ever? Because he had one of his worst seasons last year. Like, he had one of his most injury riddled seasons last year. I saw a comparison. There's like at least your old teammate Will Fuller, last time he took PEDs, he had his first healthy season and balled the fuck out. Like, I don't know. It's very interesting at the end of the day. I don't know
Do we
how to feel.
know? Oh, that it was a November test. Okay, I missed that part. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe he used it, or maybe they used it because he was hurt during that time too. So I
Yeah.
don't really know what happened with that.
Yeah, neither do I. I have no clue. Bacon said that's probably why he took them. Yeah, but he never returned from injury or like it. I don't know. There just was never any progression there. So interesting. Yes, it is a 6 week suspension. Bacon. We'll have to see what happens there. He said he's going. Did he say he was going to appeal it? Is there even a chance to appeal it in the NFL, or is it just said and done? I feel
I
like
think it's said
there's.
and done.
Yeah. Okay.
He
Well.
withdrew his appeal,
Oh,
so
okay.
he's suspended without pay.
Wow, that stinks for him. Stinks for that Cardinals team for sure. That's a big piece to be missing. But Zach Ertz for the first 6 weeks of the season, I guess. Let's talk about the NHL playoffs because that is what is up next. And we're finally here to the NHL playoffs. Jared, we've talked about this a few times. This regular season has felt like it is going to last forever.
Yes, lots of good games last night though, and we're gonna be trying to cover them in here. As you know, I only know so much. I'm looking. I didn't watch, so we got some context from at least one of these games. And Anthony said that. So we'll just lead off with the Penguins and Rangers game. Penguins win in triple overtime, 4-3 over the Rangers. Anthony said that in context, Pittsburgh was already playing with their backup goalie since the regular starter got hurt late in the season. In the middle of the second overtime, that backup goalie got injured, so the third string goalie had to come in without any preparation or anything like that. And usually, you don't really think that you're going to go in, but obviously he did. So huge ups for the Penguins here. That's going to be really interesting how they are able to navigate that kind of series or playoffs in general with the third string goalie because there's chances are they're probably down two for a while.
Of course, Anthony wanted us to talk about his Penguins and, just everything going on there. But hey, it's a good win for him. I mean, three OTs and you're down two goalies. But obviously, I guess the most concerning thing is like, when do you have those goalies back? I don't know. Should be interesting in that one. I know the one that I not paid attention to. I didn't pay attention to any of these games, but I know the one that did surprise me when I looked at this morning. Capitals getting the win over the Panthers. Panthers are like close to a favorite. I think the Avalanche are the true favorite to win the Stanley Cup, but I think Panthers are second in that conversation. And to see the Capitals come through, score big in the third period, and end up winning 4-2, feels like a big way to win Game One.
Yep. Big way to, especially in the third period, score three goals and kind of just shut the door. And not really shut the door, but they tied the game and then they took the lead and then got some insurance. So huge win on the road there in playoff atmosphere. You have Avalanche in the next game, scoring 5 goals in the first period and kind of just showing out their 7-2 win over the Preds. Flames win 1-0 off of 1 goal from the first period, and that is that. So, with that being said, I guess that's our NHL segment for the day.
There you go. Hey, I'm just sad about my Preds losing. That's all I have to say. 7-2, guys. Like, come on. I really wanted to see some playoff hockey. I wanted to go see playoff hockey with the Predators. And I don't know if you guys are going to lose 7-2 in the first game. I feel like my time is better spent traveling over to Memphis to go watch the Grizzlies. Um, let's talk. Speaking of the Grizzlies, let's talk about the NBA playoffs and everything that happened last night. Let's first talk about that Grizzlies game that happened last night because oh my goodness, what a game! I thought all the way through that this one was just this whole series is going to be absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it is so much fun to watch Ja. It is so much fun to watch this Warriors team. It's just going to be a great series. But the first few minutes of this game were pretty physical. I think that's a good way to say it. Pretty physical at the end of the day. We had a big play where Gary Payton went up for a layup, and Dylan Brooks absolutely just kicked his ass in midair almost. And Gary Payton fell down, breaks his elbow. Is that official that he broke his elbow? Did that come out this morning?
Uh, we know it's an elbow fracture. I've also seen recent news that he most likely broke it.
Oh man, that's tough. Dylan Brooks got ejected for this. Obviously, it was a flagrant two. Gary Payton out early in this game. They were required to bring Jordan Poole in to. They started the death lineup essentially after that. But man, like I, if you've watched this series, then you know just how physical it's been and how much they truly are just letting these guys play through everything.
Yeah, I'm just very. I'm glad that we're getting physical basketball, but at the same time, like some of these flagrants are pretty ridiculous. So,
Yeah, well, yeah,
uh,
especially this one. Like the Draymond one in the previous game wasn't that ridiculous. I mean, I don't think he really deserved to be ejected. But I don't know. But this one, like it was just like, come on, man. Like what are you doing? Like, don't be an asshole, I guess, is my thing.
yeah, Peyton did. Oh man, I'm watching it again, and I already saw enough of it last night. But the way that he came down was, I mean, yeah, maybe if he doesn't come down as hard, it's a different story. But still, Brooks, we know, has a reputation, and the refs know that coming into, and they're gonna just get treated differently because of that.
Good reminder that if you're falling, never brace yourself with your arms, man. Never do it. It never works out usually. In this game, we had John Morant go absolutely insane. He joins LeBron James and Kobe Bryant as the only player to score 45 plus points in multiple playoff games under the age of 23. Were you able to watch this game last night?
Uh, a little bit. I didn't watch until the fourth quarter, so it's kind of what I was gonna do with this series.
I mean, how amazing was Ja Morant? Like I watched the whole thing just all night. I was just like, this kid's fucking special, man. Like it is absolutely insane.
Well, he's definitely not hurt anymore. That's for sure. The
That is for
Grizzlies did a
sure.
pretty good job
Yeah.
in hiding it. They keep trying to put everybody they can on him. There were even times where Draymond was on him, and Poole, unfortunately, was the guy who they were trying to ISO on the most, and I think that's going to get exposed. And now they don't have Gary Payton to help that out, so you're going to see a lot of mismatches on that, and they're probably going to try everybody on the Warriors to go one on one with Ja, and it may or may not work. We'll see. But you have I mean, the matchup for him now is just undeniably great, and this is a spot we're going to attack all series. 75 FanDuel points is what I believe he finished with, and Klay Thompson can't guard him. Steph definitely won't be able to guard him. Gary Payton's hurt. Jordan Poole can't guard him. Now, are you going to put Andrew Wiggins on him? I don't know if that's the greatest idea either because you have a mismatch in probably two other places.
Yeah. Man, it's tough to think that anyone in this series is really going to be able to guard him because he is that next level. Like Feels like he really is proving himself to be that next wave after Giannis and after, those guys in their late 20s. And to hear that I mean, like, I knew it, but like just to see it that he's 22 years old, like that's just, oh, that's insane, man.
Mhm.
The guy's so good. I guess the biggest problem for the Grizzlies in this game really was their interior defense, man. That interior defense looks awful right now. They're sorely missing some Steven Adams to help them out in the paint, which makes sense. They're pretty small outside of that. You get Xavier Tillman, who's not really a big center or a very good defensive center. You have Brandon Clark, who's, again, not very good defensive center. Really, really missing Steven Adams, who is still out with COVID-19 protocols. Uh, like, I don't know. Do you think he makes a big difference if he's able to come back for this team?
It's hard to say because they weren't even playing him in the previous series, and maybe that was just matchup wise. But they chose to just not play that. Maybe they need him a little bit more in this one, but I don't really think it makes that big of a difference, to be honest with you. And Jaren Jackson, while I do think that he has some DPOY in him in his career, there's a chance that he might get to that level. He's not ready right now for playoffs basketball, and we knew what was his final stat line before I say this.
His final stat line was not impressive, so you were fine saying whatever you're gonna say here.
Yeah, I mean, we knew that the fall back to earth was coming after game one. It just
Mhm.
was inevitable for him. He has like actually, well, he's been streaky, but we've never seen what he did in game one. So it was kind of hard to say that he would follow it up in the second game.
Yep, 12 points, 7 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 blocks for Jaren Jackson Jr., Triple J there. It's been a consistent story with Triple J. Uh, Guy always fouls out. 6 personal fouls last night. Fouled out, like, with 4 minutes left in the fourth, and I don't know. It's easier said than done, clearly, but you can't foul out at that point in the game. Like your team needs you out there for your defense, and you just can't. So it sucked to see him end up fouling out. And I don't know. The rest of this series is going to be great. Do you think this one goes 7?
I looks like it right now. I mean, after all the stuff we said about the Grizzlies, they still ended up winning the game. So we'll see what they do now. I think Brooks is going to be. I actually don't know what they do with that. I don't. I think that they might consider looking to suspend him for a game, and we'll see how if
Go
they
ahead.
actually do that. Gary Payton's already out, so the Warriors lose a top three defender on their team, maybe top two,
Mhm.
and I'm interested to see how it goes. But they're going back to the Bay now, and if Memphis can steal one on the road, this one definitely goes 7. If it doesn't, I am a little bit less optimistic.
Yeah, I could see it going 6 if they're not able to steal one on the road. But I don't know. It should be very, very interesting to watch this
And they're
series.
technically the home team. They're technically the home team in the series.
Yes, they are technically the home team in the series. You're right. So game 6 would be in if they lose both games in Golden State, then game 6 will be in Golden State and I think
Yep.
the Warriors close it out there. But if Grizzlies are able to make it to game 7, it's at home. And I mean, I'm sure you saw this. That crowd last night was fucking electric. I mean, I really want to go to a game right now because I keep seeing this crowd and keep seeing how freaking pumped up they are, and it just seems like a great atmosphere to be a part of as a fan. All right, let's talk about your Bucks, who came back down to earth a little bit. Celtics win 109-86. Celtics had full control of this one. It wasn't really even close throughout the first and second quarter. Bucks tried to come back a little bit in the third, but at the end of the day, it just wasn't enough. Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum, man, the two, when they are hitting their shots, unlike the last game, because obviously last game they were not hitting their shots, but when both of them are consistently playing good offense, this team is really good. And then you throw in Grant Williams, who has become this scorer for them recently. This team is really, really good. So, what are your thoughts as a Bucks fan here? Do you kind of expect this fall back down to earth situation?
I don't think it was necessarily that they fell back down to earth. It was that the Celtics actually made it competitive. So
Yep.
they were able to ISO Giannis and get him in spots and then trap him in the paint and not allow him to do things. Giannis had a horrific first half. I think he was like 2 for 11, and then he ended up scoring 18 points in the third, but it wasn't enough at the end of the day. I think they brought it down to 13 at the very least, and um, yeah, it just was a game where you knew the Celtics were going to show up again, regardless if Smart was available or not. Because honestly, his game one stats really weren't that impressive in the first place. Obviously, the presence was there for him in game one, not so much in game two. Grant Williams did step up, and you're going to see a real like this is where if you're a Bucks team or if you're any team in the playoffs, you have to make adjustments on Grant Williams because yes, he looked really good in that game, but he's not going to be that good in 7 games unless I'm missing something. But like, come on, like we're talking about probably the sixth or seventh best player on the team. I think that he can fall back down to earth, and the I think that what's different was that they were able to actually infiltrate the Bucks interior, which they weren't able to do in game one. So adjustments will be made on both sides, and it's just going to be that kind of series. I I don't expect there to be another blowout in this one. I think it does go 7.
Gotta say, pretty bold of you. We've seen how disrespecting players has gone on this show specifically. Jazz Chisholm comes to mind, and we've seen how they've done in their next game. So I don't know, pretty bold of you, man, to say that Grant Williams isn't going to do it again.
Grant Williams is not hitting 6 threes in 20 points again.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Let's talk about today's games. Two games that have, I'm not going to say big spreads, but decently sized spreads. Miami 8-point favorites here against the 76ers. And then we have the Mavericks Suns matchup where the Suns are 6-point favorites here. Give me your the first thoughts on both of these games here before we move on.
Yeah, another game without Joel Embiid. I just don't see, even with Kyle Lowry out, I think that they're okay. Like Miami's just feeling okay about not having to roll him out there right now. They're just very, very deep, and they continue to not have to play all their players. They probably might not have to until the next round. We'll see. Uh, I think that they'll just take the Lowry approach game by game. They should be just fine in this one, and I'm waiting on James Harden to step up. Is really all it comes down to.
Yeah, definitely waiting on James Harden to step up. Man, like this is kind of a defining series for James Harden. Like I mean like he hasn't been himself
We'll
all
see.
year, right? And if he doesn't do like if he doesn't I'm not saying he has to carry the team. This Heat team's very good. So it's going to be hard for Harden, but at the end of the day, if you don't at least show up and make it competitive, like what are you doing, man? Do you even consider Harden in the top 10 of the NBA anymore?
Not this year.
Not this year.
I don't
I
even know if
think
you can make last year an argument either.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. A very interesting case on James Harden and everything. Anyway, it should be two very good games to cover. Do you want to say something before we move on?
I was just gonna say, at what point do you think Philly? At what point is that broken? Like you tried to fix the problem, you got rid of Ben Simmons, and now the guy that you got him for just isn't. Well, at least he's playing. I guess that's one thing. But
I
uh, at what point is the process broken or over? And I guess is this a disappointment if they lose in this round?
I don't think it's a disappointment. You already had Joel Embiid
Coming
out,
in,
huh?
coming in, they were like the second favorite team.
Yeah, but Embiid getting ruled out was a big deal in like losing Embiid in this series for at least 2 games was kind of big. And he's not playing today, right? Is he playing?
No,
Yeah,
no.
so I mean, like losing him for 2 games, I don't know. I don't think it's a huge disappointment. This Miami Heat team's very good at the end of the day. Um, I just feel like you probably give it another year at the end of the day. You got to give Harden a full year in Philly to really prove himself, either as a player that's going to make a difference there or a player that's not going to make a difference there. And you got to give Maxi another year to develop, but like you got to make some hard decisions. Maxi's rookie contract is almost over. He becomes an RFA, I think, after next season, and you got to decide. I mean, he's one of those guys that I feel like is on the edge of the supermax deal, kind of similar, like almost DeAndre Ayton. It's not a clear whether you give it to him or not. So that's going to be interesting for this team, and you have to make some big decisions while paying James Harden this king's amount of money. I mean, it's insane how much money he's getting paid, and same would go for Embiid. So I don't know. Should be interesting to see what this 76er team does. Let's move on to the MLB recap and talk about everything that happened in the MLB last night. I don't mean to be a homer, but we're going to start out with my Yankees. Talk about how they faced off against the Blue Jays and got another win, Jared. I saw Alek Manoah on the mound, and I knew we had the 10-game win streak, and I was like, there's no chance that we're going to win this game. We're definitely going to lose. We're not going to make it 11. Alek Manoah is just way too good against us. He's always been really good against us. And he was great against us for a really long time in this game. And then that bullpen came in, and the Yankees went to work, man. This Yankees team looks real. The offense looks as dangerous as ever. This is probably one of the first seasons that I can remember that this Yankees offense has looked so good. And I mean, I don't know. The more you look at this Yankees team, the more you realize the wins they've had and the way they're winning currently. Really scary to think about playing them in the playoffs or playing them down the road. And Judge looks like he might be back. Looks like he took the contract situation to heart. Looks like he said, "All right, you guys aren't going to pay me what I want in the $300 million deal. I'm going to go have an MVP season because that's. I mean, he's MVP in my book right now, and I don't really think it's close in the AL."
No, not in the AL. Yeah, his like Judge hit a home run off of Manoah in the sixth, right as he was about to exit the game. So, right after that, it was just over. That's pretty
Yeah.
much what happened. Several home runs, 6 runs scored in the seventh, two in the ninth, and yeah, Stanton and Judge both go yard, and they basically embarrassed the Blue Jays last night. Yankees clearing away best record in the bigs. So yeah, we'll see how the rest of that series pans out. And I think that I think the main thing that is important here is that you guys are winning with pitching that I mean, Tyone is strong, but this is the back half of your pitching roster. So if they're able to keep that up, then I mean, he pitched great 6 strong innings, only 1 earned run on this Blue Jays team. Pretty solid.
Mhm. Yeah, very very solid. I mean, it's the Blue Jays. Like this team is one of the best hitting teams in the American League, and to see Tyone go out there and that's kind of consistently what he's been doing, right? Not going super deep, going like around 4 to 5 innings deep, and gets the job done for those 4 or 5 innings. And then you bring in these relievers, and man, is the Yankees bullpen is just so shut down. All these guys that like it feels like no one talks about them at all, but like the Willie Peraltas of the world and the like Miguel Castro, Luteg, like all these guys are so impressive and so good and just absolutely shut down this offense.
Yeah, they did great. I mean, I don't have much to say other than we'll have to just see how it pans out month over month here.
You know,
Because baseball is a long game. I saw a tweet from the MLB yesterday saying that it's the first time in history that both LA teams and both New York teams are the top of their divisions in their respective leagues. And all I said was, it's only May.
it is only May. Plenty of time to wreck that and ruin that. But let's talk about everything else that happened last night. We had a Coors game that turned in fireworks for some one side and had an ace pitcher on the other side. I think I've truly seen it all, Jared. After I've seen Eric Fetty end up going 7 deep and pitch absolutely dominant ball in Coors.
Yep. Yep. I have no words on that. The Rockies looked like just an absolute embarrassment yesterday, outside of the CJ Cron homer, which we got at the very last inning of the game. So, yeah, I have nothing to say there. My call was wrong, and that's what I have to live with.
No.
I was really happy with how my baseball night was going until Juan Soto hit a home run, and then I closed my app and then watched
Yep.
basketball.
I don't blame you, man. That was as soon as I saw what Brandon Woodruff was doing to that poor Reds team, I was like, "Yep, I'm just gonna focus on basketball for a little bit longer." How worried are we about Herman Marquez? This is now his fifth start of the season, and not many of these starts have gone well. I kind of talked about it on the show yesterday. The K rate looks awful. He hadn't got a single strike with his sinker. His best pitch possible that he has. Didn't get a single strike with it last night. Like clearly something's wrong here. This kind of reminds me of who the fuck did it? Was it John Gray that did it? that like he had that dominant season and then went to the minors and then had another dominant season, like sandwiched. He had that really, really bad season sandwiched in between those two good years.
I think that he qualifies for that, not minor league wise, but Patrick Corbin's definitely like on the same path as Marquez, which is not good for Herman shares.
Yeah, it's a sad sight to see Marquez not do well in cores because usually he does well here, and he just got absolutely destroyed. I mean, there was no everyone was hitting off of him, and it looked like a beach ball for this Nationals team. So, should be interesting to see how the game goes today. We have a couple of we have I think Washington gets a worse starter in Corbin, and then you get Gomber on the Rocky side, which is a better starter than Marquez. So, should be interesting to see how that one goes. All right, two more games that we're going to cover here. Let's talk about the Royals and the Cardinals. Not much to talk about here. We kind of predicted this one. I felt good about this. Keller got the win. Looked good doing it as well. Ended up going 6 deep, had 2 Ks, but getting the win is the most important thing. I think the big thing here, though, is Bobby Witt, man. Bobby Witt Jr. hits his first major league home run. Good for him. Maybe starting to get hot, which this team desperately needs because they need some hitting. But what are your thoughts on this Royals team and what are your thoughts on Witt?
I think the team still needs to figure out what their identity is, and there's just a lot of guys that are underperforming right now. I think they still are mourning the loss of Jorge Soler in this lineup, and they obviously can't have Carlos Santana play anymore this season after he got scratched yesterday. Weird scenario for a lot of these guys, and Andrew Benintendi has just, I mean, outside of some stints, has not really shown up since acquiring from the Red Sox. So
Yep.
maybe Bobby Witt's a new injection of hope into the life of this team. They still have a lot to figure out, but at least there's some fun stuff to watch with specific players here.
Yep, definitely some fun stuff to watch with some specific players. Last thing, let's talk about the Mariners facing off against the Astros and Dusty Baker getting his 2000th win, man. That's absolutely phenomenal. Congratulations to him. He was talking about how he feels like the luckiest guy on earth, and like, oh, it was heartwarming to hear his speech after the game. But this was just another classic case of this Astros team looks really good right now. It looks like they're playing shutdown baseball. Well, this Astros team is playing really well, and Jordan is on another planet with how well he's hitting. Did you see the Julio Rodriguez catch that he made while blowing a bubble? I mean,
I
oh
did.
my goodness, what a crazy catch to make in between your legs! Like, oh, that was absolutely insane. A lot of fun to watch. But this Houston Astros team looks really good. This now brings the Mariners to 12-12. They're at 500. They're 5-10 away from home. When do we hit the panic button on the Mariners here?
It's I'm not ready just yet. I mean, they were a team that was under 500 in September, and they still ended up almost making the playoffs. So I am not hitting the panic button. They don't have Haniger right now. Julio Rodriguez really, I mean, he's looked better recently over the last week, but he had a tough start to the season. Jesse Winker has been pathetic, and we thought that he was going to be an AL Cy Young or not Cy Young, AL MVP candidate, and so did a lot of sports books. So yeah, he needs to adjust, and maybe our call was a little bit bullish on Suarez and Winker adjusting to a different ballpark and different league.
Yeah, Suarez hitting 198 right now. Winker hitting 181 batting
Yeah,
average
at
wise.
least
So
Suarez is hitting home runs.
that's true. That's true. At least that is there. But under the Mendoza line is definitely not good for that team. So Mariners need to pick it up. I mean, at least they have Ty France, right? Ty France is coming together. Looks like one
Yes,
of those guys that is going to be one of the most improved players currently in the MLB. So they have that going for them at the very least. All right,
I
uh,
have uh, I have one thing more to add here before we cap the
go
show
for it.
off. Um, something finally came out. We finally have a bigger sample size of what's going on with the ball this year. So I want to just run through some numbers quickly.
Yeah.
In the month of April, MLB teams averaged around 4 runs per game, which is the lowest average for a month since 1981, and 0.26 runs per team per game, fewer than one season ago. 231 total batting average through the entire league is the lowest in MLB history, lowest OPS of 675, since 1968, which is clarified as Year of the Pitcher. So it's been over 60 years since we've had this kind of slump. I wouldn't even say slump. It's just that and even to that point too, no pitchers are hitting right now, and pitchers hit 110 a year
Huh.
ago, which was
Yeah,
the worst mark in a full season in MLB history. So you take, and then the best part of this is that the 36% of runs came via home runs, which is the lowest since 2015. So it's a lot of weird things are happening right now, and a lot of ballparks are being affected by it. And the last thing that I want to bring up here is some of these exit velocities that have come through comparative to last season. For example, there's something that came up on one of the broadcasts last night for Milwaukee. It said that Eric Thames, if you guys remember, used to play for the Brewers. He hit a home run in 2017 in April against St. Louis, exit velocity 104, and it left the park. Key Brian Hayes hit a home, or actually, sorry, hit a fly out that was exit velocity of 104 miles an hour. Same thing. Ended up being a fly out 10 feet short of a home run. So there's
insane.
obvious things here. Obviously, it's not one. It's not just one thing. That's just one clear example of how this baseball is being affected. There's a big sample size of over in every single ballpark of examples leading to this. That's the home run ball is just being limited right now, which I don't think necessarily stops or makes the game any faster.
Isn't it the biggest head scratcher? The fact that, like, yeah, let's take away the most exciting part of the game after a huge lockout that caused a whole bunch of fans to be kind of like, you
Yep.
know what? Fuck the MLB. Like, I don't. If they're not gonna want to go get the season ready to go, then I don't want to watch it. I know a lot of fans that were like that, and now you make it that way so there's less runs in games. Like, I I don't know, man. Like I think it's pretty silly at the end of the day. So it's going to be very interesting to see if this changes. You know, they can very well implement new balls throughout the year, or they could do something even worse to us and end up putting really good or what balls that hit really well into certain games and balls that don't hit well into other games. And it's just like you really don't know, man. The variance is high to say the least. But let's get to our dog days of spring, Jared. This is where we make a little underdog bet for underdogfantasy.com. And, it's a free bet for you guys to go play over there. Jared, I'll let you have the first pick. Who are you going to take?
Yes, I'm going to go ahead, go back to the well here. We know we don't necessarily love targeting hitters, but I think the spot's just too good. Dude's on another planet right now. CJ Crone over 1.5 total bases against Corbin tonight.
Smart man. I like it. CJ Crone over 1.5, I think definitely works out for him here. Give me the over in Justin Verlander's pitch count at 92.5. Always does well against the Seattle Mariners. You look back at last year and just see like he had multiple games, or not last year, the year before last year, multiple games over 45 FanDuel points. The guy looks electric when he faced off against his team. And the whole pitching staff has looked electric, right? If Jake Odorizzi and Christian Javier are able to shut out Seattle, and then Justin Verlander isn't able to do it, we have some major
Yeah.
issues that we need to talk about. But all right, it's been a great show, Jared. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Not too much. Early only slate today, very early in about 2 hours now. And then we have a main slate to cover later.
Yes, we do. It's going to be a good one. I'm excited. I am pumped up. I'm ready to take some shit down, Jared, and I'm sure you are too. Let's get out of here. Let's go get ready for that early only slate. As always, my name is Joshua Reimer. Good night and good skill.